My name is Lisa Batson, and I'm a mom.
That's a big job.
I like Progress Texas because the people are amazing. Kathleen and Chris, and they're doing the hard work that needs to be done in Texas. And I feel like they took the mantle and they said, someone has to do it, and we're going to do it. And I love that.
Thank you, Lisa. It's Thursday, March 19, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. It's hard to characterize the sexual assault and abuse revelations regarding the civil rights leader Cesar Chavez as anything but completely heartbreaking on multiple levels. Alex Gwynn at the Texas Tribune says those revelations have sparked widespread outrage and led to a significant reckoning regarding Chavez's legacy across the country and within Texas. Organizations like the Mexican American Legislative Caucus and the United Farm Workers have begun distancing themselves from Chavez, with Mount calling for the removal of his holiday in favor of honoring leaders like Dolores Huerta. Chavez's union co-founder and the central voice among those coming forward. Major Texas cities, including El Paso, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas, are now moving to rename streets, cancel marches, or rebrand the March 31st holiday to focus on broader labor heritage. Dolores Huerta emphasizes that the movement's achievements remain vital and larger than any one individual, while the United Farm Workers Union has suspended all participation in Cesar Chavez Day activities to support the victims and seek a transparent accounting of these serious claims. At Progress Texas, again, we're heartbroken, as are all progressive people of good conscience, and we note that Governor Greg Abbott and his ilk, while making the most of a terrible situation by attempting to undermine the philosophies of progressivism and union building, are still walking around wearing red hats emblazoned with the name of a current living and breathing U.S. president who is named in files describing an entire network of miscreant deviance carried out by the rich and powerful for decades. We remind Governor Abbott that Donald Trump's name, in fact, appears in those files with frequency second only to the central perpetrator, Jeffrey Epstein himself, and we encourage Governor Abbott to show proper respect and care for all victims of sexual abuse, not just those who serve his political narrative. The aftermath of voting disasters in both Dallas and Williamson counties, by design, of course, is a lingering bad taste in the mouths of voters who waited for hours online only to be turned away to other locations, only to eventually see their votes go uncounted. And those voters rightly might be interested if a repeat is in store. Adam Edelman at NBC News says that in Dallas anyway, for the May 26th runoff, a repeat of primary election night is unlikely, as the Republican Party in Dallas County has announced a return to county-wide voting for the runoffs, following significant disruptions during the March 3rd primary, the chaos stemming from a shift to precinct-based voting, which Dallas County Republicans initially implemented to facilitate hand-counting ballots, a plan, of course, they later abandoned due to high cost. This change forced Democrats to follow suit, leading to widespread voter confusion, turned away voters, and legal battles over polling hours, as you might expect. Dallas County GOP chair and colossal blowhard Allen West, even when backing down, is claiming a victory in a situation where thousands of Dallas County voters, including hundreds of his own Republican primary voters, were disenfranchised, and West is refusing to rule out doing all of this again in the 2028 primary. Texas Democratic Party Chairman Kendall Scudder criticizes all of this as a, quote, completely avoidable failure. For months, Democrats warned that forcing a return to a precinct-only system during Election Day would confuse voters, create long lines, and turn people away from the polls. And that's exactly what happened. Wasted taxpayer dollars and undermined voter confidence, unquote. Let's be clear that undermining voter confidence appears to have been Allen West's goal, outside of the sheer fun of monkey-wrenching a tried-and-true process just because he can. And we note that one way to avoid all of this silliness is to vote early in every election. Stick to Progress Texas for information. Do your homework ahead of time and treat the first day of early voting as Election Day in every single election. That way, any issues that creep up, intentional or not, have a chance to be resolved. At Progress Texas, for a building list of reasons, come voting time, we say bank that vote and get it in as early as you can. In spite of these lame-assed Republican efforts in the primary, turnout for Democrats was massive, to say the least. As we've talked about, Joe Ellett at the Austin Chronicle notes that in Travis County, participation hit a 30-year midterm high, a surge largely attributed to widespread opposition to the Trump administration's policies, including brutal ICE crackdowns and not to mention the aforementioned Epstein files. And it's looking more and more like that midterm redistricting move might backfire on the Donald. He had hoped that redistricting would help Republicans continue to shield him in the U.S. House by claiming 5 bonus seats, but surprise, Democrats actually outperformed Republicans in primary turnout in 4 of those 5 freshly gerrymandered districts. Ellett highlights Congressional District 35 in particular, Greg Cesar's current seat, where Democratic voters exceeded Republicans by approximately 7,500. That race has pending runoffs on both sides, with Maureen Galindo, a housing justice organizer and former San Antonio City Council candidate, and Johnny Garcia, a former Bexar County Sheriff's Office spokesman and law enforcement veteran, squaring off in the Democratic runoff, while incumbent Republican Congressman John Lujan is fighting for his nomination against Carlos de la Cruz, brother of Monica down in the Valley and notably a Trump endorsee. GOP mapmakers rolled the dice on an enduring, if not permanent, rightward shift among Latino voters here in Texas. But high engagement from first-time voters and switches back to blue among those returning to the polls would suggest those mapmakers may have bet the wrong way. In fact, critiques of Republican incompetence all the way from the top with Trump and trickling all the way down to mere county-level drones like Allen West aren't coming in just from us over here on the left, in particular the desperate stupidity of Trump's press for the Save America Act. Prospects still looking very dim in the Senate are part of the beef that outgoing Republican Senator Tom Tillis is kvetching forth against his own party, not to mention Trump's on-again, off-again endorsement talk regarding John Cornyn and Ken Paxton. Alexander Bolton at The Hill says Tillis has characterized GOP action lately as, quote, lazy and unstrategic, unquote. Tillis questions the logic of bringing this voting reform bill to the floor, considering it lacks the 60 votes required for Senate passage and has created unrealistic expectations, while Republican-on-Republican violence in the Texas Senate runoff is draining tens of millions of GOP dollars. Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune echoes all of that, even as he caves time and again under pressure from Trump, adding that he's started to worry about a James Tallarico upset should the Republicans fail to pull their heads out. As they say, hope springs eternal. Focus and work hard, y'all. The November election is now 229 days away. Progress Texas is proud to be the official media partner of the Harris County Democratic Party Convention happening this weekend at the University of Houston. We're also sending a team to the Collin County Democratic Party Convention in McKinney. We'll be set up in the vendor areas of both conventions all day long this Saturday the 21st. So come by and say hi, grab some merch, and be part of our day-long recording project for the podcast as well. Speaking of Houston, if you happen to be listening in Houston before 10 a.m. this Friday, be sure to tune in to KPFT 90.1 FM at 10 to catch this weekend's edition of our In Progress Roundtable show. And note that as of next week, the show is moving to Afternoon Drive in H-Town as part of a new block of political programming on KPFT. As of Thursday, March 26th, In Progress will be on at 6:30 p.m. every Thursday evening. Progress Texas is proud to be part of the lineup of the legendary KPFT radio in Houston, and that we're now reaching a lot more voters in Texas's largest and most diverse city. With your support, we hope to expand our radio footprint beyond Houston to the top 5 Texas media markets this year. Hit the link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas Radio. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, March 19, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared bold progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.